Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of the city of Groningen, which is my pleasure to welcome you. I'm sure you won't mind if I extend a special welcome to Dr. Pietro Bartolo. Dr. Bartolo, we are delighted to have you here with us today. We are touched that you are here in the Martinikerk. You have taken to heart the plight of all those who wash ashore, and they literally wash ashore at Lampedusa. Compassion is not an empty slogan for a city whose most important and best-known church, this one, is named after Saint Martin. It's necessary to share our good fortunes with those who are less fortunate than ourselves. Now, every day on the 11th of November, we celebrate the feast of Saint Martin here today, here in the city. And these days it's mainly for the children. It's with lanterns and songs and especially a lot of sweets. But still, it's not just some kind of festival one time in every year. It has an obligation that comes with it, being the city of Saint Martin. And of course the question is, what can we do? And shortly I would like to quote from Isaiah. Is it not to share your food with the hungry and to provide the poor wanderer with shelter? When you see the naked, to clothe them and not to turn away from your own flesh and blood. It's a text that still applies today, and ultimately it means that there should be room for everybody, that everyone should count, be able to join in, that no one is left by the wayside, that no one is excluded, but everyone is included. Now, there is no lack of exclusion in Europe's history. It's a history filled with division, with nationalism, with strife, war, refugees. But there's also a more recent history of cooperation and peace building. But I must say that you get the feeling that it grows more fragile every day instead of growing stronger. Because still we allow ourselves to accept human suffering where we could do so much more to fight it. And I wonder, what did our continent learn from that history? We see those pictures of people at sea in rickety boats, endless queues in the freezing cold at the borders of Europe. And closer to home, the heated and sometimes disgusting scenes that play out when a municipality talks about setting up a reception center for refugees. Such was not the case in Groningen, luckily. Migration is a phenomenon of all ages. The sheer scale of today's migration flows will not leave Western Europe untouched. Each week, thousands of people are seeking protection and shelter. Amnesty International recently announced that there are 21 million refugees in the world today. To be clear, most of them are seeking protection in their own region. The Italian Coast Guard announced this week that in a 48-hour period, they had rescued more than 10,000 migrants from the sea and brought them to shore. On Monday, about 6,000 migrants were rescued from some 40 boats, an all-time record, or rather, a heartbreaking low point. A day later, a further 4,655 people were rescued. And I cannot imagine the sights that Mr. Bartolo must have seen. It's unfathomable to see so many people, hundreds of thousands, every day, in all their individual circumstances. And sometimes I'm happy to hear as well that there's sometimes a glimmer of hope because of the things you can do. This year, 500,000 refugees are expected to reach Europe. The arrival of so many immigrants will create a change, will bring change to Europe and to the Netherlands. Now, there's a richness in cultural and religious differences, but they do change the immediate and familiar world around us. And they can lead to tensions if we stop communicating. It is up to local government, politicians, teachers, parents to explain that things will change, that they stand behind these changes, and especially keep the conversation going. The award that the INLIA Foundation is presenting today to the Mayor of Lampedusa and to all residents of the island amounts to a major appeal for a society made up of invisible threads that bind people together. And that is so very important. It was already memorized by a couple of people who said that Pope Francis made his very first visit to Lampedusa. And for many people that visit was a wake-up call. Pope Francis appealed for more solidarity. And at the same time, he criticized people's indifference and lack of responsibility. He abhorred the fact that in this globalizing world, we have made indifference a global phenomenon. We have become accustomed to other people's suffering. Sometimes it doesn't touch us, it doesn't interest us, or it isn't our responsibility. The globalization of indifference needs the response of people leading by example, by compassionate example. And that's why the work of residents of the island for a compassionate society is so important. Through their selfless efforts, the people of Lampedusa have made a tremendous contribution to a more humane world, a world in which refugees are seen first and foremost as people, people in need, in search of hope, in search of a better future. For all the people who have lent assistance on Lampedusa, we, the countries of Western Europe, can only show the greatest respect. The people of Lampedusa continue to concern themselves with those who are seeking a better place. They have only limited resources, but they are an example of solidarity. It is therefore only right that today they should receive the Living Stone Award from the INLIA Foundation. You have held up a mirror to us. You have set aside your indifference through decisive action. And in doing so, you have broken through the silence and indifference. Now I'd like to leave you with a text from Hebrews, which served as an inspiration for Bach's music and indirectly, I think, also for the great piece of music that we heard just now. Do not forget to show hospitality to strangers, for by doing so, some people have shown hospitality to angels without knowing it. Who knows how many angels the people of Lampedusa have since shown hospitality to. Thank you very much.